Box FX.
Hello there, this is Shao, and welcome to the 6th episode of my 17-part series on getting a great vocal sound. This series is a crash course on best practices you need to know to get good results in a home recording environment, from performance to recording to mixing. Last time, I discussed the #1 rule of vocal recording. If you haven't already seen this video, please go do so. Today, I'll be getting into all the different equipment needed to make a high-quality vocal recording. There's a lot to cover, so this will be a long video. So grab some popcorn and let's get started. Equipment. There are 6 pieces of equipment you need to make great recordings: a microphone, some microphone accessories, a set of headphones, a computer, a DAW, and low latency. Let's start with the most important piece: microphones. The 2 types of microphones that you're most likely to encounter in your home studio are large diaphragm condenser mics and dynamic mics. Condenser mics have a broad spectrum, fairly flat frequency response that makes them fantastic for recording almost any instrument, especially vocals. However, they're very sensitive to loud noises and to changes in temperature and humidity, which means that you can't use them on stage or outside. Plus, they require an external power source, such as USB power or phantom power from a converter box. Dynamic microphones are basically the opposite of condensers. They have a somewhat more limited frequency response, which makes them sound a bit muffled, though they still sound very good on vocals. However, what they lack in frequency response, they make up for in durability. Dynamic mics can take a beating. They're designed to be dropped, stepped on, screamed into, and generally abused both indoors and out. Plus, they don't require an external power source and are generally cheaper than most condensers. So which one is best? Well, that depends on your needs. If you want a studio-only mic suitable for podcasting, singing, and voice acting, go with a condenser. If you want a tough mic that's great for screamed vocals, taking outside, miking up loud instruments, and using on stage, go with a dynamic. The next mic consideration is the pickup pattern or directional response, which is to say, the best places on the mic for recording. The 4 main pickup patterns are as follows: omnidirectional, which picks up sound relatively equally from all sides; bidirectional, which picks up sound well from the front and back, but next to nothing on the sides; cardioid, which picks up great on the front, okay on the sides, and almost nothing on the back; and hypercardioid, which picks up great on the front, okay from the back, and almost nothing on the sides. Some mics let you change their pickup pattern, while others have a fixed pattern, and each pickup pattern has its own strengths and weaknesses, but I'll get into that in the next video. What matters right now is that you know the pickup pattern of your mic, so that you know which side of the mic is the front. And you can't always tell a mic's pickup pattern just by looking at it. You need to check the manual. I actually didn't know my first mic was hypercardioid until I looked it up months after I started using it. Do your research. It helps. Another thing to consider about mics is how they're mounted. Some mics have removable mounts. This allows them to be attached to a mic stand, which makes them great for singing. Other mics have a fixed desktop mount. This makes it difficult to record anywhere other than at a desk, which limits their use to vocal activities that you can do sitting down, like podcasting or voice acting. While this factor won't make or break your home studio, it's something to keep in mind when getting a new mic. The last thing about microphones is the output, which is to say the plug it uses. There are 2 main types of mic outputs: digital and analog. For digital mics, that almost always means USB. These mics tend to be on the cheaper end of the spectrum. However, they're mainly geared toward people who only use one mic at a time. So if you plan on recording a whole band with multiple types of mics, you might want to use an analog mic instead. Speaking of which, analog mics, such as those that have XLR or 1/4-inch output jacks, are used in professional recording studios. However, they require some extra hardware to be able to use them, but I'll talk about that in a bit. For now, just know that there are plug types, and that they make a difference down the road. Also, quick tip: when you shop for a mic, double check to see if it comes with a mic cable, because not all mics do. So now you know what to look for in a mic. That still leaves lots of options, at lots of price points. A microphone can cost as little as $20, or as much as $10,000. So I'll give you 2 more pointers. First, unless you have some experience with different mic types, or plan on recording multiple things simultaneously, you only need 1 microphone. Second, I suggest following the $100 rule, which says that you don't need to spend more than $100 on a mic to get high-quality vocal recordings. Don't believe me? Check out Graham Cochran's video in the description about how he recorded an album with a single $69 mic. To make things easier, I'll give some recommendations. I currently have two microphones, a Samson C01U, which goes for around $60, and a Shure SM57, which goes for around $100. They're both very good mics. However, I'm considering getting another mic down the road, specifically the Behringer B1, which also goes for around $100. If you want a more vocal-oriented dynamic mic, consider the Shure SM58, again for $100. And if you want something more geared toward podcasting, I'd definitely recommend the ever-popular Blue Yeti, which goes for around $130. If you want more gear recommendations, don't hesitate to ask.
Mic accessories.
There are many different mic accessories, but I'll just cover the two most important ones. The first, and most important, is a pop filter, also known as a pop screen or a pop guard. It's a thin mesh screen on a wire that goes between the microphone and the performer. Pop filters are extremely important because they help disperse the blasts of air that happen when you make B, T, P, or S sounds. B's and P's cause a very loud, low thump sound. T's and S's create a lot of harsh hissing noise that many people find irritating. A pop filter helps reduce these problems. Without a pop filter, you're almost guaranteed to sound amateur, and we don't want that. The goal here is getting a great vocal sound, not a pretty good one. Pop filters can be made of a bunch of different materials, and are sold for anywhere between $20 and several hundred. There's a link in the description to a relatively cheap one. However, if you want to save some money, you can do what I did and make your own pop filter. I've attached another link in the description to a video by Scotty D, where he explains how to make your own pop filter for dirt cheap. The other important accessory is a mic stand. This is a long pole on a tripod or foot that you can attach a microphone to. I specifically recommend the kind that can bend in the middle, like this one. A mic stand is important because it lets you place your microphone anywhere in the room at almost any angle you wish. Without one, you're stuck using a desktop mount, which restricts you to recording at your desk, or atop a stack of boxes like I did for a while, because I'm cool. Or worse, you have to hold your mic, which will almost definitely cause unwanted noise and uneven volume levels. Mic stands are comparatively cheap, going for between $20 to $30. They're well worth it in my opinion. They put your mic where you want it and keep everything else out of the way. Check the description for a link to an example mic stand.
Headphones.
These should be easy for everyone to find. You want a good set of headphones so that you can hear yourself or your music without your mic accidentally picking it up. Without headphones, you're forced to monitor your recording on your speakers, which is bad news. You risk a lot of unwanted noise and mic feedback. However, some headphones are better suited to keeping sound from leaking out than others. I generally recommend closed-back, ear-covering headphones. They're very good at making sure that only you hear your music and not the microphone. I also recommend choosing a headset with a longer cord so that you're not rooted to your computer. Check the description for a set of good headphones for anyone who doesn't have them.
Computers.
I'll assume you already have a pretty good computer. If you do, don't bother buying a new one just for this. The average PC is more than up to the task of home recording. If you're looking to upgrade your computer, look for a PC with several USB ports, a relatively large amount of RAM, and a solid processor. It doesn't matter whether you choose Mac or Windows. Both work fine, but they do impact your software options, so keep that in mind. If you don't have a computer, however, you'll need to get one. While it is doable, recording on a tablet or smartphone is much harder than on a PC, especially when it comes to finding good recording software.
DAWs.
You need a place to record your sound into. This place is a special kind of software called a Digital Audio Workstation, also known as a DAW or DAW for short. There are many different kinds of DAWs on the market, each with their own strengths and weaknesses. I'll be talking about DAWs in much more detail in the section on mixing, but for now, know that you need to have one to do home recording. Price-wise, DAWs can cost anywhere between $60 and $700, but I strongly recommend that you don't let price be the sole deciding factor for the DAW you choose.
Low latency.
Latency is the amount of time it takes for sound to travel into the microphone, into the computer, through whatever effects you may be using, and back out to the speakers or headphones. Without the proper equipment, this latency or lag can be very high. But why does latency matter? Well, latency is a big deal in recording because of how it relates to live monitoring, meaning the ability for the performer to hear themselves in their headphones while they're performing. It is crucial for a performer to be able to hear their own performance as they make it. Psychological research shows that performers actually give a worse performance if they can't hear their own instrument or voice. Link in the description for those who are curious. And as I said before, the goal is getting a great vocal sound, not a pretty good one. So we know how important live monitoring is. How does it relate to latency? Well, with high enough latency, the live monitoring won't really be live anymore. It'll be delayed, maybe even by quite a bit. Without the proper equipment, you can expect lag times of 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second, or even 500 milliseconds. That's half a second. If you're not sure what this sounds like, here is an example of a 100 millisecond delay. And here is an example of a 500 millisecond delay. As you can hear, that's very distracting, especially if you're trying to keep to a beat. Lag like this can make it impossible to give a good performance. In order for live monitoring to work, the latency has to be at most 10 milliseconds, and preferably between 3 and 6 milliseconds, which is low enough that the output vocal sound would seem to happen instantly. So how do you achieve this low of a latency? Well, that depends on your microphone. If you have an analog mic, you need something called an audio interface. This is a special analog to digital converter box that allows for essentially zero latency. Most of them have multiple input and output ports, allowing you to record and monitor several instruments at once. There are tons of audio interfaces out there, and a complete guide is beyond the scope of this video. I've put a link in the description to Sweetwater.com's audio interface buying guide for more information. However, if all you need is a simple USB audio interface for recording with one mic, I recommend the PreSonus Audio Box for $100 and the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 for $150. In fact, if you want a really easy all-in-one setup, check out the Focusrite Scarlett Solo Studio Pack. It comes with a Focusrite USB interface, an analog condenser mic, a mic cable, a set of headphones, and the DAW Cubase with some bonus Focusrite mixing plugins, all for just $200. That's a great deal for anyone who's just getting started. I'm personally looking into the Native Instruments Complete Audio 6 because I plan on recording several kinds of instruments, and I like the software that comes bundled with it. It goes for $230. On the other hand, if you have a USB mic, you don't need an audio interface because there's one built into the mic, which is pretty cool. However, you still need a special kind of sound card driver called an Audio Stream Input-Output driver, or ASIO driver for short. Every standalone audio interface comes with its own unique ASIO driver. However, USB mics don't. But fear not, for there is a universal ASIO driver known as ASIO for All, and it's available for free online. I've put a link in the description to their website for those who don't have it. I will admit that it's a little quirky, but it does a darn good job for being freeware. So, to sum up, you need a microphone to record with, a pop filter and a mic stand to protect and support your mic, a set of headphones to hear with, a computer and a DAW to record into, and either ASIO for All or an audio interface to keep the lag low. It may seem like a lot of stuff, but once you have it all, you're ready to make awesome recordings. Anyway, that's about it for this video. If you liked what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want more information or have any questions about what I've covered here, comment below. I'm always open for questions. And if you'd like to request a VoxFX tutorial, please send me a message. Remember, if it's talky, I can talk about it. Next time, I'll show you how to properly place your mic to get the best recordings you can. Until then, have fun and keep making sound.
VoxFX.